All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order. Is Mrs. Kennedy here? Oh, yes, I see her. Hi, Mrs. Kennedy. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Newburyport School Committee for Monday, June 1st, 2020. Mrs. Kennedy, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Callahan?
Here.
Mr. Hawkeizer? Mr. Hawkeizer?
Here. I'm here.
Mr. Menon?
Here.
Mayor Holliday?
Present.
Ms. Spalding?
Here.
Mr. Reardon?
Here.
And Mr. Cole is absent.
Yes.
We have a quorum. Could we please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? And please use Bruce Menon's flag. Where did he go? Oh, I see him over in the corner.
You got the flag, right? Yeah.
Yes, there's a flag. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good. All right. I will pick up from here. We are at our period of public comment. Our virtual comment. If there is anybody who would like to would like to offer public comments, we would ask that you, I guess you raise your hand and one of us will spot you and bring you in. We ask you to try to keep it to about 2 minutes. Also, we do ask that you remember it is you are public speaking, and we hope for civility. Is there anybody out there who has public comment to make?
I also opened up the chat for anyone too, so I don't.
Sean, you need to unmute Tim Miller.
Okay.
Hearing none, let's move to the consent agenda. We have one set of minutes and we have 3 warrants. I will be moving them tonight with Mr. Cole's absence. The first warrant, I move that the following named bills and payrolls of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate of $15,332.74 be approved for the city auditor to make payment and deduct the funds from the school's account. Do I have a second?
Second.
Brian Callahan seconds. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The second warrant, I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate of $9,765 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And the third warrant, I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate of $271,255.04 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There were no conflicts.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? These warrants have been passed by us now. They still need 2 additional signatures. So if you haven't signed the warrant, could you please get over there by tomorrow to sign them? They, usually are laid out for us the week before. They're not run until we vote on them. But now that we voted on them, we've got to get them signed. We have a set of minutes. We have a set of minutes from 5/18/2020. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I know that Sheila Spalding had a number of corrections. There are 2 ways we can do this. The corrections are not substantive, right, Sheila?
Right.
right? Their spellings and things like that. We can either have Sheila go through them right now, or we can approve them and have Sheila forward those spelling corrections and name corrections to Mrs. Kennedy or to Joanne Yell. What's your will? Well, don't all speak at once.
Well, I think Sheila should say what she feels comfortable with, since it is her correction.
Right. I can, off the top of my head, recall page 5, there were a few typos as far as spellings go. Instead of student flight, they said student fright. Nancy Lysick's name was misspelled. There's quite a few minor things like that. And there's one statement that's unclear who was saying it.
Which statement is that?
I'm going to pull up the email.
Okay.
While we're there on page, what page that would be? Looks like page 4, maybe. At the top, it says intervention Superintendent Gallagher. So they're working with teachers to get support for students. You guys see where I am?
What about?
The top of the page is the word intervention. Just let me know when you're there.
Ma'am.
Are you guys at, do you guys see where I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so on that page, it says a little bit down, discussion ensued regarding world language classes at the middle school. It says here that some students did not come into the high school with any language skill. I'm not sure that was said by anybody.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
But it was.
Okay. Knowing that everybody in the middle school takes at least 2 years of language, I'm not sure how that would have come up. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Take it out. Delete. I've deleted it.
Sheila, have you come up with?
So I have, but they're very minor. Like review is spelled wrong on page 5. It's a Brian Callahan statement. We possibly need to change timeline. Do we need to have the policy subcommittee review this? It's just a misspelling. And Nancy Lysick, later on down that page, under cafeteria RFP discussion, her name is misspelled, Lysick.
Where are you talking about?
And sorry, further up that page under Bruce Menon, it says, asked about funds for students who cannot afford full fright instead of flight. That is funny. And then one other was on the next page, page 6, talking about the bus company. It's under the bulleted list, is that first sentence. It says Lysick said they are watching the revolving accounts, the Bud company instead of bus company.
because they lost the vote last year.
I think that was all of them, if not most of them. And I'm happy to, they're small as I said, so I'm happy to forward that email on.
Terrific. Does anybody else have anything to add or subtract from the minutes? All those in favor of approving the amendments, the minutes as amended, say aye. Aye.
I
Opposed? Terrific. Sean, I'm going to turn over the next several to you.
Right. Okay, well, first of all, we have bringing back to our student recognition, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Award, and I think Lucy is out there, Lucy Gagnon. You can just listen, Lucy. I'll unmute you at the end if you wanted to say a couple of things, but if not, I'm trying to find you. Oh, there you are. Hey, all right. We'll unmute you. So this is this award is given to a senior has distinguished themselves in the pursuit of excellence with a strong, consistent academic performance during their entire four-year career. Lucy excels in both academics and athletics. She is a true scholar, has won many awards and honors during her years at Newburyport High School. Most recently, Lucy was named as a valedictorian for the class of 2020. So congratulations on that distinguished award. Lucy is also an accomplished athlete participating in spring track for the past 2 years. She also runs cross-country, indoor track. In addition to all of Lucy's academic accomplishments, she also has a lot of athletic achievements as well. And I could read you the list. But most notably, Lucy is the Cal Athlete of the Year for the 2019-20 season. And it is my pleasure and honor to give Lucy this distinguished award. And we'll bring this over to the high school, and I think you'll be able to pick it up with your cap and gown and all of those great things you guys will be getting this week. So congratulations, Lucy.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to receive the award. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, and we're very proud of you. So thank you for tuning in to the Zoom
Thanks for having me.
extravaganza. All right. That's wonderful. So we'll pass this on. We'll get this over to Mr. Wolf, and I'll put it in your little packet, and you'll be good to go. And we'll be seeing you at a few different senior events, and fingers crossed, if all goes well, our in-person graduation on July 23rd. So
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
you're very, very welcome. Awesome. Thank you. Our next agenda item that I have here is the introduction of our new administrators here to the Newburyport Public Schools. And we'll start with Miss Nancy Koch. And let me find, oh, there's Nancy, you're up top. It's like the Hollywood Squares. I love this. So I will unmute you, Nancy, if you want to say a few words after, but let me just give a little bio and how excited we are to have you. Nancy has an extensive background. This is for our special education director. She has extensive background for over 40 years working in special education. She is currently the Assistant Director of Student Services for the Andover Public Schools, has previously worked as team chairperson for the Hamilton Wenham Region District and the Beverly Public Schools. In addition, Nancy has over 24 years of experience as an education teacher in the classroom, working in various capacities in the Massachusetts Hospital for Schools in Canton, St. Andrews Schools in Barrington, Rhode Island, New Haven Unified School District in Union City, California, Pollard Middle School in Needham, Mass, and Miles Rivers Academy in South Hamilton, Mass. Nancy completed her educational specialist degree at Gordon College, has a Master of Education at University of California, Berkeley, and has her bachelor's from Lesley College in Cambridge. And we welcome Nancy Koch to our administrative team, and she's already working and transitioning with Deb O'Connor. So welcome, Nancy. I'm not sure if you wanted to say a couple things and introduce, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I am very excited to become part of the Newburyport team. And as Sean said, I'm working with Debbie to already start transitioning, and it's very exciting, and I can hardly wait to just jump in July 1st.
Awesome.
Terrific.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next, this is like the NFL draft here. So we'll go through the bios. Our next new administrator is the Bresnahan grades 1 to 3 principal, Mr. Tim Miller. Tim has an extensive administrative background throughout his career, serving as a supervising principal for the Methuen Public Schools. He was also a principal in the Haverhill Public Schools, an assistant principal in Amesbury and Timberlane Regional High School in Plastow, New Hampshire. Tim's, prior to his administrative roles, Mr. Miller was a 7th grade teacher at the Bruce School in Lawrence and a grade K-4 teacher at the Roger Mill School Elementary School in Dallas, Texas. His administrative leadership experiences combined with his teaching experiences provide insight and knowledge of the challenges that our students face day to day. Tim completed his Master's of Education at Lesley College and his Bachelor at Michigan State University. And both candidates throughout the interview process were the #1 candidates through our interview committees. So we're very excited to have Tim. Tim Miller, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be on board. It's I can't wait to get started. I've been to the school a few days. I intend to be there a few days a week. I wish I was going there to meet kids and meet teachers. Unfortunately, we're doing that this way. But I'm really excited. I want to thank Superintendent Gallagher and the committees that picked me. I feel privileged and honored, and I can't wait to get going. Mr. Reardon, I'm not sure if you know this, but someone must have snuck in behind you and hung up that Ohio State flag because a green and white
No,
look a lot nice.
I came prepared.
Thank you.
All right. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. You know, we're really excited to have new team members. And I also want to credit, you know, Amy Sullivan, Patty Lally, and also Christina Davis working with Tim in that transition. And also Deb O'Connor, who's been just really such a valuable team member. And what's amazing, she only works part-time and can get all this done in 3 days, right, Deb?
Yeah, that's living the dream.
Yeah, I think Deb's been working 7 days a week, pulled her out of retirement, and is just an amazing person. So thanks so much, Deb. But no, we're really excited to begin next year with our new team members. So there you go.
The next item on the agenda is the foreign language presentation. So I don't know who needs to have the ability to share their screen, but we're going to be hearing from Andy and Lisa.
Right.
It will be me, Bruce, or Brian,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
whoever.
Let me find you Principal Furlong, and we'll let you share right here. So you should be able to share now, Lisa. I made you the host. There you go.
Okay,
And
so
if you want me to, just so at our last school committee meeting, we were talking about the budget, and we were having a discussion on foreign language and identifying an increase of foreign language in the staffing. So there was a great discussion among the school committee members. And so we felt that at this time we'll have Andy and Lisa, who actually been working with Assistant Superintendent Beck and also Dr. Schreff on developing a comprehensive language program at the middle school. So Lisa and Principal Wolf put together this PowerPoint. They'll talk through it and then can answer some of those specific questions that occurred from our last meeting.
great. Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for having us here, and in the midst of all of this, to be talking even about and dreaming a little bit about expanding world language at the middle school and in the district is a nice place for us to be. So I'm happy to share some of our thinking. I think you guys all know that we've been working with Dr. Scherf since the fall of 2018, and this fall she was able to come speak to the school committee a little bit about where the work she was doing. We, with the help of Dr. Scherf, had sort of taken a back step, and she came in and did a needs assessment. She looked closely at what was the type of work that was going on 6 through 12, in world language in the district, and looked at it really with an eye for where world language should be based on best practices in the field, and then did quite a few observations in the classroom. And this year she's continued that work. Some of it has been in terms of setting some goals for the group in terms of their classroom work and in terms of their curriculum development, and also in terms of, as a larger department, leading them into a vision and then helping us at the district level with Angela, Andy, and myself, thinking about how do we expand the program in a way that is in line with best practices of language education and sustainable, and giving us the greatest depth of instruction as we can get with each step along the way of expanding the program. So this slide is really just a little bit of background. I think most of you know all of this has been going on. The third bullet about the instructional approach, one of the things that we've noticed a lot of change in our classrooms this year, both at the high school and the middle school, is the increased use of authentic resources and the increased use of target language. And that's been a key area of growth that Nicole has pushed the whole department. What's the amount of time in a world language class, be it German or Spanish, that the instructor is actually speaking that language and students are having to interact in that language? And they all have target goals for the percentage of time that will happen. And Nicole has been doing observations with them sort of in a non-evaluative way and helping them build that capacity and learn how to better do that. In addition, they've been looking at sort of mapping out 6 through 12. What are the core competencies for each of the grade level areas? So 6, 7, and 8, and then into the high school. How does the course flow for both Spanish and German? Andy, do you want to add anything before I move on?
No, I think that gives kind of a good summary of it, where we're going and what's been accomplished.
This is the summary statement that the department created. Alden Metz is the instructional leader for, and it's a unique position. I think she's the only one right now that we currently have who is instructional leader to grades 6 through 12 for world language. So when we do professional development, the world language teachers from the middle school go with the high school team under the guidance of Alden Metz. And Nicole has also been doing coaching directly with Alden to develop her leadership skills and to connect Alden at both the state and federal, national level around world language education. One of the things that she's been working directly with the state on is there are some new frameworks that are expected to come out. I think, if I'm correct, either Andy or Angela, you can chime in this summer around world language. So Alden, through Nicole's connections, has been able to be kind of a part of that. So this is their mission statement, who they are, what they do, and why they do it. And so I just give you those 2 background slides. I know this isn't really new information to set the stage for how we made the decisions that we made, and that we made them in the context of Nicole's guidance, as well as in collaboration with the entire 6 through 12 Department of Educators, along with me, Angela, and Andy. So here's kind of where we're at right now to date. If we weren't closed, what it would look like in the middle school. Grade 6, it's a part of our exploratory rotation, and they get 1 block in a 5-day rotation. That year is really an introduction to the study of world language, Spanish being the language that we're using. So Nicole is very big on talking about, it doesn't matter what language we're teaching. What we're really teaching young people how to do is how to acquire a new language and strategies for doing that, which allows us to really stay focused on a skills-based curriculum, which fits in really nicely with the work that we're doing with Billy Donegan. In grades 7 and 8, our goal has been to cover the content of what would be the high school Spanish 1 course over a 2-year period, knowing that our students are not meeting daily. They're meeting either 2 or 3 times a week, depending on whether it's an A week or a B week. So you might, for example, go Monday, Wednesday, Friday on an A week, and Monday, Wednesday on a B week for your Spanish course. And this year, because there happened to be one person who had a point to in her contract open who teaches German, we took that opportunity to use, that opportunity just to bring German down to the middle school to see what it might look like, to see how it could work. So this year we had a pilot of German 1. It was a partial course, and we knew that going in because we weren't going to be able to offer as many meet times as you would have gotten over the 2 years of 7-8 in German. So we have 2 full-time FTE world language teachers. Plus this year we got that little 0.2 person from the high school that we shared. The caseload for each of our teachers is 260 students. And I think that's important to look at in the sense that if you were teaching a core course in the middle school, your caseload's going to be more around between 85 to 100, depending on the class size coming in. So they're really carrying quite a large number of students on their caseload, which impacts their ability to give feedback, which impacts their ability to, move students along and differentiate. So that's where we are now. The mandate that I kind of got from Sean was like, let's look at how we can expand over a number of years. So this looks at a couple of years of expansion. And I made some changes in my slides that are a little bit different from the slides that I think that you got. So I'm not trying to pull a fast one on you. It's just a change that I forgot to make before I sent it to Sean. And it's a little bit important in how the courses are titled. As we look moving forward and working with Nicole and developing a middle school program, it's going to develop differently than a high school course-based program, because we are going to do a grade level course for 6th, 7th, and 8th and sort of expand that way. The grade level course is going to be based on the competencies that are mapped out by the group, the standards that will come from the state, and be specifically designed for a middle level learner. So the slideshow I think that you have maybe in front of you, if you're looking at the hard copy that we sent ahead of time, it was speaking to Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3. Those will be courses that maybe are at the high school, but we're going to look a little bit differently in the middle school and call them Spanish grade 7, Spanish grade 6, and Spanish grade 8. So I just want to clarify that as I move forward. So really what's happening here is we're adding 2 FTEs. If you look under staffing, we go from 2 FTEs to 4 FTEs. And so when you look at that, the middle school model, we try to think about how do we get the most intensive experience in world language for our students. And to us, what we came finally to is it's best if it becomes a core class. So right now we have a core rotation of English, math, science, and social studies. We are proposing to add world language, and in this case, Spanish, as a 5th core course onto our team. So each team now has a 6th person, because all of our teams also have a special educator. And students will have in their rotation an opportunity to get world language every day, or if we were to do, there's different ways we can approach the schedule. We can shorten the core blocks and everybody gets all 5 classes every day, or we can do some sort of a waterfall block so that one course drops out every 5 days. And those would be all the kind of logistical details that we'll have to map out if the decision is made that the funding is there to add the 2 FTEs. Change in the core caseload is really important, I think, also. So not only are you like bringing world language up to the core course status, you're also giving your world language teachers the same caseload as your core teachers, so that their ability to interact, to grade, to give feedback, and also in a middle school model to have an interdisciplinary approach. So now very often in the middle school, you're going to find that social studies and English are going to create an interdisciplinary unit. Now you have world language in there with that, so that Spanish hopefully can be integrated across all the curriculums on a team. So that's year 1. 7th and 8th grade, we would have a world language teacher on each team. benefits. I kind of like talked through those a little bit. Some concerns. The Knock Mullen building is full. So we do not have a dedicated classroom to give to these 2 new teachers. That is not an insurmountable hurdle, but it just makes everything just tighter and tighter and tighter. There's a couple of options maybe that we have in terms of sharing space with our special education teachers or rotating teachers. If you decide the scheduling and the space kind of collide, because if you decide you want to offer all 5 classes in a day, then you need that 5th classroom to rotate into because you're breaking the groups down differently. So it's a problem that we can face, but I think as we continue to add, like if we want to add again, I'll get there. We're just getting tighter and tighter with our use of space. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that the building's really full. We're going to use Sean's office for all of our Spanish classes next year. Just like
Oui, bien.
hable.
Tu casa, mi casa.
I'll say merci because I took French.
All right, we have 2 more languages now.
Hiring, I think that, I know the budget, like I know I get to be a part of these 12-month, 1/12 budget things too. So one of the questions that Sean just asked us is like, what's the drop dead date? I feel like if we don't know by the end of July, it's going to be really difficult. There's some things we need to redo our schedule. We need to find the space and we need to hire a person. So even knowing at the end of July, that's a lot to have happen before the start of school in September. But obviously, we're excited to try to move the program forward. So if that's when we get it, that's when we get it. We're also going to get to the point where we're going to need some more advanced resources. It says in there Spanish too. I should have probably edited that out as well. The resources will be dictated by a conversation with Nicole, Dr. Scherf, and the world language team. Okay. Do you want me to pause and take questions? Do you want me just to go forward? The other 2 slides are a little bit shorter.
Yeah, why don't you finish the presentation and then we can, we'll bring Andy in and
Yeah.
If there's any questions, they can ask you and Andy.
Okay. So that's next year. The following year, we're proposing 2 more FTEs. So that gets us to a total of 6 FTEs for the world language department, if you will, and allows us to put a team world language teacher on our 6th grade teams. So the first iteration is to take the 2 world language teachers we have, we put them to 8th grade, let's say. We hire 2 new ones to 7th grade. That's year 1. Year 2, we hire 2 world language to 6th grade. And so now we're at this point, we're fully expanded to 6 through 8, having a core world language teacher on every team. And then as you can see under the courses, for the 6th graders who are coming in, it will be their first year of world language. For the 7th graders, because in 6th grade, that first year, they didn't have Spanish. So this would be their first year of Spanish. And then the 8th graders would have moved from a full Spanish core course in 7th grade to a full Spanish core course in 8th grade. Again, here's where space just gets like, I already was short on space to add 2 teachers the first year. Now I'm trying to add 2 more teachers. So Sean's gonna move to a trailer outside of City Hall. We'll put him downtown.
There you go.
I think
I have an office, Lisa, he can move into.
There you go.
You're brave. All right. And then I didn't map it out really too much further than the 3rd year, but it's at this year that our students all start the school year at the end of it. Everybody has world language, and by 23-24, here's one slide I realized I probably should have added. You can see how eventually we get to the point under 23-24 where you've got 3 years of world language by the time you go to the high school. It's this class of 2021. Eventually, see my little arrows. Mr. Callahan, I apologize for my graphic abilities, but I think you get the point.
As long as you didn't use Comic Sans, I'm okay with it.
I did not, I don't think.
It's my favorite.
Okay, so yeah, that's the end of it. That's the big idea. I think that the big idea to me is just adding world language at a really substantial level in a way that we know we can do it really well. It fits in the model of how we already do business, and we can provide a really integrated world language approach with this kind of a staffing scenario. Done.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Should I unshare? I'll stop sharing.
Yes. And then I'll take the host back. Actually, Lisa, you might have to make me the host again.
Oops. Hold on.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or Bruce, anybody?
No, was there anything that Andy wanted to add
Oh,
to the
I'm sorry.
presentation?
Mr. Wolf?
No, there's really nothing for me to add other than, as we've been working on everything collaboratively and working with Nicole. So the plan that Lisa really has in place. So as it comes to fruition, we know that up at the high school, there may be some rethinking that we would need to do in terms of how language is organized, and even kind of potentially moving away from our more traditional way of labeling a language class to one that is more focused on beginner level, intermediate level, and advanced level. But also recognizing that as students move through the system, we should be able to offer more advanced level language classes. And really, just to really reiterate what Lisa had spoken about earlier in the presentation, it has been very, very cool to see the shift the world language teachers have made with their professional development that's been offered by Nicole. Just seeing how much more fun and engaging language has become by being very cognizant of using as much of the target language as possible during the lesson.
Great. Do school committee members have questions for Lisa or for Andy?
Yes. So Lisa, what would you say is the base budget we need to hire 2 world language teachers?
Is Nancy still here?
Yes.
Yes.
Nancy, I don't have my budget right in front of me.
I think
So-
it was
For
100
2, it would be about 130,000.
Okay.
The one thing I didn't talk about that it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think this plan sort of positions us for is the certificate of biliteracy.
Right.
And,
That was my next question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's actually 2 students from the high school this year, Andy can speak to that better than I can, who are going for their certificate of biliteracy. And that I think is really exciting to all of us because of everything that happened with the shutdown. There was some uncertainty as to whether we would have some students get there this year. So they're going to be sitting for a test. It sounds very like it can be like an hours long exam that they take. And along with their test scores, along with their MCAS scores, and along with some other criteria established by the high school, students will get a seal of biliteracy on their diploma. And so it's exciting that 2 people are at that place, but I think our big goal as a district is really to just have more and more students be able to be in that space at the end of their high school experience.
Thank you.
I had a question for Andy.
Yep.
I think in all of the time I've been on the school committee, we've had 1 student actually take AP test in world language, and was a student who transferred in and was very fluent in French. Do you see ultimately us being able to offer that to kids?
Oh, definitely, because students will be coming in at a higher level of proficiency. So they'll be able to start just by starting their, actually probably just by starting their freshman year at level 2 could potentially make them eligible for an advanced placement class their senior year. And so just this year, and I have to, because when Lisa and I met before the meeting, we went over the numbers. So there's a significant number of students who are starting this year in Spanish too, just because the work that the middle school has engaged in. So in 2 years, that could be very much the case for this year's freshman class, for the incoming freshman class.
So what, after students take Spanish, we're calling them 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade Spanish now?
Yeah.
What would we expect? Where would we expect them to test into? Because right now, this, even if you were to go to AP, that's a 5-year sequence, right? Spanish 4 and then AP Spanish?
Correct.
So after 3 years of Spanish at the middle school, what would you expect a student to test into? Would you think?
I think we're hoping that there'll be our advanced students, the ones that would be heading towards an AP would be able to test into a Spanish 4 kind of level. But in talking to Nicole and Alden, their concern with kind of us using that language of the courses, you know, Spanish 1, 2, 3 in the middle school is just, it doesn't account for the middle level learner and the state frameworks that are going to come out for world language in our level. But that said, we're using, David, a placement test now, Avant Place it's called. And all of the students in 8th grade took that test. And
Lisa, could you, what's the name of that test again?
Avant,
Avant.
A-N-T-E, Place
Okay.
called.
Okay.
Yeah, and it allows, it is a test of reading, speaking, listening, and writing. And
So it's like the Access.
it's very similar, and it's very similar to also the test that's a more expanded version of the Seal of Biliteracy.
Okay.
So this is the first year that we have that data, and I think that what that data is showing us more clearly is like where are students landing at the end of 8th grade, and how does that compare to where students are landing at the end of 9th grade. And again, it's just a baseline data that we have right now, but I think that will be nice for us to have kind of each year to answer the question exactly that you're asking.
Right. And just to go back on, in my experience with middle school program tied in, very similar to the planning that Lisa and Andy are doing. After we had that robust middle school program tied into the high school program, students were coming in at an honors 2 and an honors 3 level their freshman year, obviously with placement tests. So I think down the road, that's probably where they'll end up, in a 2 or a 3. And then, you know, they'll take an honors 4. Usually they're, you know, the advanced students, their sophomore year. And then we did an AP 5 along with an honors 5. So
I guess I'm trying to think of, students need 2 years of language in high school.
Right.
And we all know that a lot of universities are asking, looking for 3 years.
Correct.
Of language at a high school.
So
I'm trying to think, I'm trying to think of, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so if you come in, the benefit of the advanced language, what we found coming in, if a student came in as let's say an honors 2 their freshman year, and then they took an honors 3 their sophomore year, that's their 2 years, but the colleges will see the level. So it's 3 year equivalent, you know? So for some of your advanced students, if their junior year, they're at a honors 5 level, or actually taking the AP their junior year, the colleges see that as 5 years equivalent. So, you know,
I mean,
right.
And I know we're Newburyport, so everybody here is advanced level student. But for those students who may not be interested in taking advanced level language classes, I'm curious as to like where that puts them.
Well, I could answer that, Sean. So I think that that's also part of potentially the rethinking that would happen up at the high school as well. So with students coming in with a couple of years of exposure to Spanish, but also kind of with our understanding and the work that the World Language Team has been doing, that it's about learning the skills of learning a new language. It allows us to potentially look at other options for language. Like I know Sean and Beverly, they got to a point where they offered sign language as an option. So there could be more variety of languages for students to pick from. So if they've gone there 3 years at the middle school, all right, I've enjoyed Spanish, but I want to try something else. It potentially affords us that flexibility.
So they could then start something over again.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Because it is about learning the skill of the language. And once you've become more fluent and proficient in one, it's much easier to gain the other.
Okay. I'll go with you on that. I mean,
Thank you.
I'm not the language expert. I mean,
Yeah.
if that was the case, I would say we should look into our ELA curriculum because we should be learning language skills everywhere. So I'm more than hopeful and more than optimistic. I do not know the new language standards coming out. I'm excited. Maybe we can schedule some sort of a presentation in the fall to hear about, what that looks like and what that's gonna feel like in the classroom. I'm really interested in that. So I fully believe you and fully buy into that. Can I ask a question though about, and I think over the years we've invested a lot of time and energy, and the community's been really behind building the language department. So I want to start by saying, thank you for laying all this out. It's a very clear longitudinal path, it seems, that people are going to be excited about. I'm just thinking, with the reality that we can't budget everything, I'm thinking about priorities. And knowing that, we're also talking about an expanded science lab coming down the road. And truthfully, I was involved, and Superintendent Gallagher was there last year with a group of parents that was really hoping to elevate the amount of performing arts we offered. Because I think, Lisa, the kids take performing arts 3 times every 2 weeks or something like that at the middle school.
Not
It's
really performing arts, or are you thinking of chorus, band?
I guess, yeah, what we call chorus and band, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's in the regular exploratory rotation.
Right. So, people were talking about how do we expand something like that seems to still be low in the totem pole. So I'm just trying to think of other things. I mean, you guys have 2 teachers this year, 2 teachers the next year, and then more teachers coming up to the high school. And it's an interesting budgetary, thought, but I don't see us having 8 new teachers in the next 3 years or whatever it works out to be. So I'm trying to think if we've put any time into, or I wouldn't even want to say that because it's not part of the discussion, but I'm just on the back of my mind, I'm thinking about other things that we might just want, and that it should sort of weave growth into other areas as well. I guess the other question I had was about when we first started talking about expanding languages into the middle school. One of the things that the committee was talking about is we didn't want it to be a language course, that we wanted to make sure that there was a curriculum that talked about world cultures. And we in fact made sure that we named it World Language and Cultures proposal and that sort of thing. And so I was just curious if the new standards go into any depth about cultures around the world or anything like that, world religions or anything of that sort, so it's not just language out of context.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that in two ways. I think one is that the work that Nicole's been using for instructional strategies in terms of increasing the target language, you're also increasing the amount of authentic resources you're using in the classroom so that your exposure to the cultural Spanish is also built in and embedded into the classroom. And then I think in addition, if you have this world language as a part of our core instructional team, it allows us to make those connections into the social studies classroom, make those connections into the language arts classroom, which is natural team-based instructional strategy for a middle school anyways. Right now, it's hard to do that because the world language teacher has 260 students in a totally different schedule than the social
We had
studies.
talked about the really weird, I think we had talked about the 6th grade history curriculum, the geography curriculum.
Yeah,
And that could we look at integrating
yeah.
some of the world cultures into that and putting some time and energy into expanding that curriculum.
Yep, and that's changing too. The frameworks have shifted a little bit. The 7-8 flow for social studies has changed a little bit. So our teachers had been working on that. Anyways, what you find now is that the geography, those sort of 5 strands of geography are spread across 7th and 8th grade so that students are studying regionally, the back to the ancient into the current in particular regions. So it would be excellent, I think, when they're studying Europe to be able to make those connections to Spanish heritage or those ideas as well. Yep.
Sorry to hog the air. One last question. If we add Spanish to the core curriculum, what comes out?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier in the scheduling. We have to figure that out. Yeah, that's a question. Do you drop a block? Do you
Well,
shorten?
not only like how do you schedule, but what loses minutes?
Everything
Like
does.
I get,
I mean,
right,
everything
so-
gains minutes because you're gaining world language, but yeah, you have to have a shorter block or you drop a block over.
you would still lose some time over the course of the week.
Yeah.
So do we have instructional minutes within the middle school schedule to drop like math minutes and still make the state requirements?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Additional questions?
I have a question. If we're hiring staff, this happens, how does that work budget wise since we voted on the money through September, right? So how do you hire in July?
Well, I assume I don't know, Donna could probably answer that better, but I assume that you get a supplemental budget. But Donna could answer that better.
I would, I think this is short money for work that we have prioritized as goals for the school committee and for our community. We've heard for many, many years that this was really something important to the community. I think this is really short money. And I think that Sean, Nancy, and I can sit down before, I assume, Sean, that you have been contacted about going before the city council tomorrow night to discuss your budget.
I thought it was a Thursday
Thursday.
night?
Thursday night. Okay, I wasn't sure which night. I thought it was tomorrow. So we can talk before then and take a look at the budget and where we are. And we'll have information for you at the next school committee meeting, or we'll send out an email to you. But I think we need to find this money to be able to start advertising immediately for these 2 positions. They've worked too hard to get to this point, and now that we have, the plan and the numbers, let's really work to see if we can figure out how to add this money into your budget.
Awesome.
Thank you. Additional questions? Okay, Lisa, Andy, thank you so very much for you and your team working so hard on this. I'm very excited to hear that the mayor as well is committed to trying to make this happen. So may not have to wait till July.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
So you-
guys.
Good night. Take care.
Andy, you've got a presentation to make?
I
Yeah,
do.
you can't go anywhere, Mr. Wolf.
Nope.
He's staying after school.
Always in detention somehow with Mr. Gallagher.
Is he gonna be sharing the screen with us?
Yes, he will be. Let me share the host rights. And then when you're done, Andy, if you could just share them back. that'd be
Sure.
great. Awesome. And I can just touch base for the school committee just to kind of give a context. So, and I just want to credit Andy, his team, and also, the school committee and the city and Mayor Holiday for really wanting to try to do a traditional graduation. I think a lot of other communities, they modified their graduations due to the COVID, but I think for us, and understanding the great pride and the traditions here in Newburyport, we wanted to hold on to this tradition. And I think what was great is working with Kathy Riccio, the Board of Health, and also Andy and his team. We took all of those social distancing, the requirements, all in phase one, and then really developed a plan that met all those safety requirements in phase one that was given by the state, and came up with the graduation, modified graduation proposal that when phase two came about, we were spot on how we're operating this graduation for July. So I just want to credit Andy, his team, Kathy Riccio, everyone that came to the table and really thought through from start to finish on how we can do an in-person graduation with the modifications. We were shooting for, I think, June 23rd, but when the commissioner and the governor came out with in-person graduations, that you have to, if you're going to do that, it's going to have to be after July 19th. So with that being said, we went to the Board of Health and got a conditional approval. And then this is the plan that Andy has in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, so last week we were able to jump on, we participated in the Board of Health meeting. And I do want to also just say a big thanks to Mayor Holiday for being a part of that conversation at the Board of Health and really helping us get to a point that we did receive conditional approval for the July 23rd, more traditional ceremony, but obviously with very strict social distancing guidelines in place. And that's what I'll be able to go over here in the presentation. And so just as a general overview, so our students, each graduate will be allowed to have 2 guests who will need to be immediate family members. We've come up with a plan that I'll be able to show you later on in the presentation that allows for a staggered and escorted arrival and departure for the ceremony. The field has multiple gates. So based off of your name in the alphabet and where you'll be seated, that will determine which gate you'll be entering and exiting the ceremony. Everyone will, of course, need to wear a mask. There will not be a processional. Students will be sitting with their 2 invited guests. And that really allows us to maintain the social distancing piece and keep everybody who's participating with their immediate family members who they've been with throughout the quarantine. And then ultimately, just to kind of give you an overview, the bleachers, or the field rather, we can organize that into squares of 15 by 15. So there's more than enough space for us to spread out our graduates and their guests that will be with them. And then the other part where the conversation had gotten to last week really kind of focused on how after the event, so if somebody were to get or become sick, how are we tracking, or at least tracking them back to having been at the graduation. So doing some reflecting on this, one of the pieces that we would do is pre-registering of the attendees. So that way, if somebody who had come to the ceremony and then did become sick, it would be a way for us to know that they were at our graduation ceremony, be able to kind of have that for our own records, and then obviously notify everybody who had come to participate as well. So that's the summary of where we're at. And this just gives you kind of a view of the actual football field. So this isn't even going with the full width of the actual soccer field. So just primarily using the football field. So where we have ample squares to seat the graduates with their guests. This gives you a more of a visual of how the seats would be organized. So with the graduates sitting in front of their parents. And then this just shows you how much space there actually is. And the Board of Health was definitely appreciative of us providing the visuals, because it gives a sense of how much space there actually is, and really recognizing that it really comes down to how people are entering and leaving the ceremony, which I feel like we have a pretty good plan. Here's just another picture to give an idea of how much space there is. And so this would be our plan to have a systematic entrance and dismissal for the graduation. And so each of the colored arrows indicates where the people would be entering into the stadium from. And this would also dictate as well where we would ask people to be parking also. We would not have any parking with the exception of the people that are working the ceremony and speaking at the ceremony, but we would have specific areas on High Street and on Toppins Lane for where people would park, but would also indicate where they would be entering into the stadium as well. So that way we can control that. And it works out great where you have around 42 people entering from each of the gates. So it really does help, makes it more manageable for us to have in maintaining the social distancing upon arrival. And then with the departure, we'd be dismissing by each location on the field, one family at a time. So the ceremony, will be most likely like it is every year, around an hour long, but there is going to be additional time just for coming in and for leaving as well. Oh, and then so that's it for the graduation and the logistics around that. But then we do have other events that I did want to update you on as well. So Port Media has been fantastic. Last week we were able to air and run our scholarship night. So it was last Wednesday that was on local channel 9. Received some great feedback from families. There were some issues with logging on to their link for outside. So for our upcoming ceremonies, which are the Vespers ceremony is going to air this Wednesday on local station 9. That's at 7 o'clock. And they're going to be using YouTube now to make it easier or have less issues with people logging in who do not live in Newburyport. And then Thursday night at 7 o'clock is going to be the Ivy Day ceremony. So we were able to film. We were able to have student speakers come in, maintaining social distance and deliver their speeches, just so that we could maintain those traditions that have existed for many, many, many years. And then this Sunday, we have the graduates we're gonna do a car parade. We met with Lieutenant Samasco today to kind of work out the logistics there. But the graduates will be starting in their cars and ideally, hopefully with their family members there as well at the Bresnahan parking lot, and then working their way down High Street past the high school and then looping around Johnson back to Toppins to then come up into the driveway of the high school where the mayor and Sean will be there to deliver or to hand them or give them their diplomas. So we did decide that we did want to issue diplomas, realizing that there are going to be some families, first of all, that aren't just not comfortable coming to the large scale event in July, but then there's also families who just have a conflict and will not be able to participate. So we did feel it was important to, still recognize June 7th, which was the official graduation date, and with the car parade ending at the high school where they can receive their diploma. And so then working with Sean and the mayor, we're trying to come up with something special that we'd also be able to provide the students at their graduation ceremony at the end of in late July. And all of you are more than welcome to come on Sunday. The parade will be starting at 11 o'clock, and the first car should be at the high school, I would anticipate, at around 11:15, 11:20.
And then,
And then-
Andy,
Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you also, as part of giving out the diplomas, you're also setting up time for families, right, to come in after for pictures? or
Yes,
pictures on the stairs?
correct. So we worked out with Sullivan Studios. Starting on Monday, so parents have been able to sign up for a time. Also this Wednesday, we're doing a cap and gown pickup day and working with one of our parent groups and the advisors. So they've planned a lot of kind of just fun things to have on the field that the students will be able to see when they come get their cap and gown. And then we have a grab bag that's going to have, we got every senior's getting a t-shirt. We have the 2020 face masks for the students that look very, very cool. Also Agave donated gift certificates for the students as well, which are also in the gift bag. So there's a lot of kind of neat things that the students will be picking up this Wednesday. But now, since they'll have their caps and gowns, we're going to ask them, to wear their gowns in the car for the parade. But then also after Sunday, they'll have their gowns and their diploma. And last year, what I saw after the graduation ceremony, when I went around to the front of the building, I couldn't believe the line of families waiting to take a picture in front of the high school. So I learned very quickly that is definitely a picturesque spot that a lot of families try to take advantage of in having a picture with their graduates. So what we did with Sullivan Studios, they're going to be there Monday, Tuesday. Families have signed up for times, and they can come with their graduate in their cap and gown and with their diploma and have a picture taken in front of the building. And then we were able to kind of work some things out. So the school is also going to purchase one picture for the family as well so that we'll be able to provide that for them also, in addition to whatever other pictures they may want to purchase. So that's what we have going on.
A lot of work, Andy.
Yeah, it's definitely been a ride, that's for sure. But I think we're there, which is great. And I do have to say, and I said this at the Board of Health meeting, I meet with principals from the Cal, but then also I'm in these larger principal meetings as well. And this has been such a primary focus of conversation, but just hearing just kind of some of the difficulties that have happened in just other communities with petitions and just families being upset about things. Everybody here has just been so patient. And I think that just says a lot about the community in terms of understanding the situation that the country, the world is in, and that things aren't going to be the same, but being just very patient as we've really tried to work through all the logistics of this as well. And I do also want to just say a thank you to Carrie O'Donnell, has been also extremely helpful. So just I'm able to kind of share with her just some of the thinking, and she's been helpful in terms of having a Facebook page just to communicate information as we kind of make some of the decisions before I send out even my more large scale information with more of the specifics to the family. So there's been a lot of people. It's definitely been a community effort in all of this.
Students have been involved in the planning?
Yeah, so I've been meeting with the class officers. So we've been meeting once a week since the closure. And so they're kind of my source to getting information, in terms of the pulse of the students. And that's where we really learned. So with everything that we were planning, the one thing that students really just wanted to have were some opportunities to bring them together as a class. And so that's where we came up with the whole car parade piece, and the police was great in helping us to make sure that could happen. But then also that's where we learned, all right, you know what? If we really can't have a more traditional graduation that brings the graduates together, the students really wanted that opportunity to be on the field. And so, all right, we'll work to make it happen. The one thing I do want to mention, so we will be continuing to meet with the Board of Health so that they're kind of partnering with us in the kind of the final logistics of the plan. But one thing that is very clear in the state guidance that came out last week is that we can do this plan as long as the data from the state continues to support reopening of the state. So it is possible that if the data becomes worse into July, which I'm very hopeful that won't be the case, but if it were, the state could just say, we're not allowing for these larger scale gatherings, in terms of the graduations to happen. So I did communicate out to the families that if that is the case, then we will run a virtual ceremony. So I just wanted to be upfront with all the families, and not to continue just stringing along the students and the parents as well. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the data will continue to go in a positive way.
Awesome.
Great. Are there questions for Andy?
I guess I want to say, I think your team's done a great job communicating everything in a wide variety of places, and that's probably why people aren't upset, is because nobody has felt as if you guys are just walking away, or if no one's paying attention.
Great,
Sean, I
thank
guess I could say that to the whole district. I think there's been a lot of communication from you and your leadership team, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are, freaked out but not panicked or annoyed.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea, Dave, is, we're in this together, and, and the ability to be flexible and change plans. And, as Andy said, this community's been awesome with that, and true partners with us throughout this. So appreciate that.
Terrific. Thank you, Andy.
Oh, thanks
Good
for
job,
having
Andy.
me.
Was it Sean Gridden?
And I just said, great job, Andy.
Oh,
Okay,
thanks, Sean.
Terrific. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the school committee goals. And Dave, am I turning this over to you?
Sure. I'm going to share these.
Sure.
It's essentially the same thing we talked about last week. We have not had a chance to have a meeting on any of the other goals that we had talked about, or get advice from the legal team. So I don't know if we want to vote on these four that seem all set.
What's the will of the committee?
Anybody have
I feel comfortable voting on these now.
Right? Okay, well then I move to vote on the four goals as presented last week and modified last week on superintendent evaluation, budget proposals, updating of meeting types and protocols, and strategic planning.
Can I just ask one question, Dave?
Sure.
The information that you shared with me tonight that we went over, has the rest of the school committee seen that information?
Yeah, that was the same language as that we left the meeting with last week.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're good.
All right.
Somebody wants to second that.
Second,
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the four goals recommended by the policy committee, say aye.
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 Opposed? One absent. Goals are adopted.
Great, thank you, everybody.
And I guess the last item before the staff reports is the school committee meeting draft calendar, which was in everybody's packet. You'll notice that everything is listed as a business meeting. I believe that based on our adoption of the goal having to do with our meeting protocols, some of these will be converted to forum type meetings. We just have to figure out the topics and the dates we want.
Can we do that at the retreat or something like that?
Sure. Any thoughts or comments?
No, it's pretty much standard, right?
Pretty much standard. Yeah, we shift to Tuesdays. if there's holidays or vacations. Looks good. All right. I don't think we need to vote. Do we?
Just one quick second. Are we meeting this summer? I'm just thinking about, what just brought up, if we do get a supplemental budget to approve money to hire Spanish teachers, do we need to have a meeting to be able to vote on that, or was that going to be able to wait until the 29th? And because that would also be a first read of that budget.
29th of June,
29th of July.
29th of July.
That's our next.
I don't know. I would prefer that we would meet before then, even if it's just to do the budget, supplemental budget.
Because wouldn't we need 2 meetings, one to present and then another one to vote?
For the budget?
Unless the mayor can make a presentation at the next meeting in June, the second meeting in June.
Well, I think that's what we have to do. I don't
Okay.
think we can wait. I don't think we can wait on this. So, I think, based on the presentation tonight and, the fact that it's meeting longstanding objectives that, as I mentioned earlier, that we've had, I think that between Nancy, Sean, and I, we'll have information for you at the next school committee in terms of whether we move things around, whether we added the money, in terms of how we were able to find the money we needed in order to move forward on advertising for 2 world language teachers.
So can I recommend we consider having a meeting on either June 29th or July 6th to approve that, vote on that budget? And probably June 29th, since July 6th might be holiday. It's July 4th weekend.
I agree.
Yep. Why don't we tentatively schedule that meeting?
Okay.
For June 29th, even if it's just a 1-item meeting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We could have a special meeting, Bruce.
It's a special meeting.
There you go.
Terrific. So we're okay with this calendar. We're not going to vote on this. This looks like a,
Yeah.
okay, good. Assistant Superintendent Bick.
Hi. We are continuing our work around summer program. We've continued to collaborate with youth services, Deb O'Connor, Nancy Koch, Emily Russin, Liz Kinsley, and others as we work to try to finalize summer programming. We were hoping that we were going to have the guidance from the commissioner by today, but it looks like he's going to share that with us tomorrow. There's a 10 o'clock conference call with him, and hopefully we'll get more guidance there. But Deb, I'm going to ask you to maybe fill everybody in on the progress that's being made around special education summer programming, and then I'll talk about some of the general ed programming, if you don't mind. You and Nancy both. Nancy, I'm sure, would have some things that you might like to add as well.
So like Angela, we're kind of in limbo a little bit. So what we've been planning is a hybrid. We've been working actually with Kathy Riccio as well around PPE kinds of equipment and things like that that would be needed, especially if we were to bring our programs in face-to-face this summer. I think that could be a little more challenging. So we're kind of looking at probably having to continue with them remotely, but maybe able to provide some, related services, maybe a speech and language one-to-one. We talked about having some campuses and having some outside like little areas for classrooms. We talked about doing tutoring one-to-one, one-to-two. The biggest group we planned was a group of 3 students, and hopefully that can happen face-to-face. But again, we also have a remote plan if that's not allowed. I know, Nancy, you want to add anything around that? I think we're mostly
No.
concerned about the PPE things around
Yes.
our programming. We have some students that drool, that spit, that have some significant issues, and we're really trusting that Kathy's helping us, access the kinds of materials that we need to protect both the kids and protect the staff as well. We were hoping maybe to do some catch up on testing this summer, if we could possibly do that. And again, we could bring students in one-to-one, maybe in the library or something like that, so that we can do some social distancing. And I hope to work with Steve and Angela and Kathy around some of those more specific concerns. Nance, you have
And
anything else?
the only other concern will be if the students in out of district placements, and if those programs open up, that's going to prove to be a whole new challenge, because we're going to have to get those students transported.
Yes. And we're hearing a mixed group from
we
that.
are
Yeah.
definitely hearing a mixed bag on that. So some schools have definitively said, no matter what the commissioner says, they're going to be doing their programs remotely. They're not going to be switching midstream. Others are saying they may switch midstream, and the majority are just waiting to hear what the commissioner and the governor come out with, and then we'll determine accordingly. So that could add a whole new dimension to this.
Actually, I spoke to some people from SEAM Collaborative today, and they were telling me that they may use their vans and go around and do individual tutoring and individual like gym classes with families
Awesome.
and whatnot in the yards. And actually the director was saying she'll drive the van around and provide some face-to-face that way. So people are trying to be creative. They're trying to look outside the box. And hopefully tomorrow, Angela, we find out our next steps. But we've planned three different kinds of things.
We can only hope, right?
We can only hope.
You know, I feel like when we're talking to the rest of our administrative team and to you, that I feel like I'm the commissioner now, because we keep saying we're going to give you more information next time, and then we don't have the information. As far as the literacy camp is concerned, Literacy Camp is a program we generally run for our general ed students who receive any kind of literacy intervention, or perhaps qualify through coming from an economically disadvantaged family, or as an L student. We do hope to do that in person. We're hoping to run some small groups, no more than 5, to offer that kind of tutorial service. We may combine that with some remote as well, because we won't bring the students in as frequently. We have reached out to our teachers who have taught traditionally in our summer program, and all but one of them was on board and ready to join in if we are able to do in-person work. We've talked with Kathy Riccio and Steve Burkholm, and Sean is going to coordinate another meeting, so that once we've talked to the commissioner, we can really tighten what some of those safety protocols are. I mean, we're working on those, but if we do open for summer school, it means that we're going to try to ramp that up a bit so that we can duplicate the efforts that we plan to put in place in the fall. It will be a really nice opportunity for us to test our systems, to make sure that they're going to work. So we're trying to coordinate all of that. Nancy Lysick has reached out to Salter about transportation, and the possibility of being able to offer some transportation to some of our general ed students for summer programming. And they have been positive, but also working with their staff around the protocols that they are going to need to follow around transportation. We've also I've been talking with Andy about what we're going to do at the high school for students who may need some credit recovery as a result of the COVID shutdown. And he's meeting with his ILT leaders to really talk about our best approach at the high school if we're going to do some summer programming there. And we're also looking at the possibility of doing some work with our English learners this summer. If we could bring them in for some tutorial face-to-face, that would really help with some of the regression that's happened from just the lack of exposure to English and not being immersed in it. So we've also started to talk a little bit about whether or not we want to venture into possibly even holding our L camp, which we normally do during April vacation. I've talked to you about that before. It's a 4-day really camp kind of situation where we really teach the students interpersonal skills and interacting with one another. So we're considering all of those things, but really until we know the specific guidance, they're all up in the air. We've got some planning around all of them, and hopefully we'll, by your next meeting, we'll be able to tell you specifically, or hopefully before then a communication will go out about it that you will see anyway.
Great. Does anybody have any questions? Just keep us informed as you have been.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, no, I know that we have been waiting for guidance for a long time and have started doing a lot of our own planning, which ends up very often aligning with the guidance that we get when it finally comes. So I'm pretty comfortable with you guys continuing to do the planning.
Right.
Right now, I have 3 different letters ready to go to parents. As soon as we get the go ahead, I'll just pick which one goes.
Thank you very much. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Angela, that's your report?
That's it.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, Mr. Gallagher, the superintendent.
All right, thank you very much. I just a couple updates. School choice, as we voted on, we opened up 10 slots in 6th grade, and those slots are filled. And we advertised and did all that. So as I said, I think it's a great thing that a lot of neighboring families want to come to Newburyport Public Schools because they know the type of education they're going to get. And we monitor the other grades throughout, and we are from the IC and the charter. We have more students coming in 8th grade that have registered. So we went from 198 to 206. In 9th grade, we grabbed an additional student. So we're at 216 in grade 9. So, you know, as I said, I think a lot of the work that we're doing together, and I think a lot of the Newburyport families are really pleased of kind of what's going on, and they want to come back and they're staying. So I think that's a positive piece. As Bruce said, and as everybody's saying, you know, I appreciate the governor and the commissioner and the guidelines and recommendations. But throughout this ordeal, I think our mindset has been, number one, to keep our students and staff safe, and 2, plan for different scenarios and not wait until the end of June or the middle of July to get guidance or recommendations. So that's what we've been doing. We're starting to formulate some ideas, but I'm hoping tomorrow with the commissioner's update to the superintendents and the assistant superintendents, we'll have we'll have some more specific guidelines on what school's going to look like. And I think that's what we're all waiting for. So we have our fingers crossed. Commissioner update from his last conference, his webinar. He talked about graduation. He talked about the in-person graduation, the parades, and the different restrictions there. But as Bruce said, we're well within all of those guidelines. He continues to talk about cuts to Chapter 70 and possible circuit breaker. So that's concerning for us. But I can't credit Deb O'Connor and her team enough. So even if we did have a reduction and working with Nancy Lysick, I I think we'll be in pretty good shape even with circuit breaker reductions. But that's kind of the talk, but it's like hints. You never get anything really specific. You get this could happen, that could happen. So I go to Nancy and I'll say to Nancy, hey, if this happens, are we okay? And Nancy spends about a half hour in her office and comes back and we'll say we're okay. And I'm like, all right, works for me. So I think we're in a good shape right now with our budget, even if there is some reductions in Chapter 70 in the circuit breaker for us. Very interesting, former Boston Commissioner Ed Davis, who is working now, is contracted with the DESE in his firm, and they're working with schools with reopening. So he's been working with the state on the preparation of reopening schools in September. He also talked on the conference call about PPE preparation, and he kind of had an overview of all the different things we should be thinking of. And I want to credit Kathy Riccio and the nursing staff, because we've already been in Steve Burkholm. We already anticipated a lot of that, and they've already been purchasing, reconfiguring nurses' offices and things of that nature. So once again, credit Kathy and her staff and the nursing and the health professionals of the Newburyport Public Schools. They're already thinking ahead with that. He went into the summer school, and we're waiting, and he said he'll have more guidance on that tomorrow. And then he also talked about MCAS testing for next year with more specifics down the road. So those are the different areas that the commissioner is talking about. And hopefully, like I said, tomorrow we'll get more specifics. If not, then we'll continue and plan on the scenarios that are best for our students and staff, our families, and our school system, with the utmost focused on safety and the well-being of everybody. So that was the commissioner's update last week. And then in the Friday's memo this week, I'll provide new information. If there's something that's really comes out of that tomorrow, I'll shoot the school committee an email, but we'll probably, as I said, we'll be getting more guidance and recommendations tomorrow that I'll relate to everybody at the Friday memo. Other news, I wanted to credit the 7th grade teachers. Every year, the 7th grade students plant American flags on Memorial Day weekend for the veterans headstones. This year, obviously, with COVID, the students did not participate, but the 7th grade teachers did. Went to the grave sites and did that over Memorial Day weekend. I want to credit Mr. Weber, who also brought his children with him, but he really headed that event up, and it was really special that we gave the respect for our service men and women during Memorial Day. So that was really nice. We did surprise lawn signs for seniors. So the faculty and other faculty members and sports staff throughout the district gathered at NHS, collected the signs. They volunteered last Friday. We went around and surprised the seniors by putting the signs on the lawn. And the mayor and I also got to participate. They asked us to drive one of our decorated vans. We got to drive around the city. And it was really, really nice. Mayor, I'm not sure if you wanted to say, there was a lot of, I think, parents and grandparents at the houses that were really appreciative of that.
Absolutely. It was, because I think all of us have been feeling, for the seniors in terms of everything that they've lost this year, in terms of athletics and, senior week and prom, and it's just been really hard, and just the friendship and ties that they have with each other. So to be able to drive around and to see families, extended families come together and standing outside their homes because they knew this was coming in terms of the signs, just the response from the community with thumbs up and honking, you know, it was nice. It was a really nice, and I'm really grateful for the teachers and Andy Wolf and everybody for organizing this for the students. It was important, just as the rest of the events through this week and through the 7th will be too. So thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And just a couple other items, food distribution at this time, since school closure, we've served 14,294 meals to families. And yeah, it's extraordinary. I want to thank, obviously Pam Keeley and the kitchen staff for coming in, preparing those meals for the families. But that's kind of, I think, a true silver lining in some of these issues we've been dealing with. It's just really, really touching, and I thank them for all their support. And our last piece, we had a principals meeting this morning regarding the end of the year celebration. We'll provide more details for school committee, but the idea is on the last day of school to have closure for our students, that having providing a parade route for families, and then we're working with Kathy Riccio of having the staff at each school standing outside and having the students with their families drive by. The idea is that maybe they could decorate their cars, and I think it would be a nice ending of the school year for the entire district to bring some closure on the last day. So that was a great conversation with the administration. Just really, I think, going above and beyond, trying to do as much as we can during these tough circumstances, with Zoom and all of that, to try to bring a little personal touch to the end of the school year. So that's our superintendent report. And as I said, we're in it together, and so far we're making, I think, the best of a really tough situation out there. And this community is very special, and I'm honored to be part of it. So there you go.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Are there any subcommittee reports? I'm not sure that we've met any of the subcommittees. Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll take a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Angela.
Yes.
Thanks,
Have
Deb
a good day.
and Nancy, Tim. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Thank
guys.
Thank you. Nice to
Have a
meet
good
you.
night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
All right. Good night.